Welcome to the Geriatric Dietitian, your go-to resource for nutrition that supports health, independence, and confidence in aging. I'm your host, Katie Dodd, registered dietitian and geriatric nutrition expert. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Geriatric Dietitian Podcast. Vitamin B6 for seniors, is it important? Now, I do want to note here that we have managed to make the 6th episode line up with vitamin B6. So I kind of like how things are working so far on the podcast. Now, I've been going over a series of important nutrients for older adults, and today we're talking about vitamin B6 and whether it's actually important for older adults. Now, I believe that every single nutrient is important, and it is for one reason or another in the body. Our bodies are so incredible how all of the different nutrients and foods and systems in our body work together. But I will say vitamin B6 is not a nutrient that you probably hear about most of the time. I think that more people are familiar with vitamins like vitamin D, calcium, B12, but vitamin B6 is pretty interesting when it comes to healthy aging because the recommended intake increases for older adults compared to younger adults, and that is why this vitamin has made our list of key nutrients for older adults. While true vitamin B6 deficiency is considered rare, research does suggest that, around a quarter of older adults can be at risk for inadequate B6 intake or deficiency. So we're going to talk about quite a few things today. We're going to talk about what vitamin B6 does in the body. We're going to talk about how the needs increase with age and what specifically those needs are. We're going to talk about why older adults might be at risk for deficiency. We're going to cover some food sources that include vitamin B6. And then we'll wrap things up. As always, this podcast provides general nutrition education and is not considered individualized advice. Nutrition needs can vary based on your individual situation, medical conditions, overall dietary intake, and that's why it's so important to work with your healthcare team and, if you're able to, work with a registered dietitian for individualized recommendations. So let's talk about what vitamin B6 does. Vitamin B6 plays so many roles in the body to function correctly. It helps with metabolism, brain health, immune function, nerve function, and red blood cell production. Vitamin B6 also helps the body to produce and process protein. And because it's so involved in so many different body systems, getting enough vitamin B6 is important for overall health and healthy aging. So one of the reasons that I did want to dedicate an entire episode to our friend vitamin B6 is because the recommended dietary allowance, or the RDA, increases with age. So remember the RDAs, these are guidelines that are based on research that show how much an individual, based on their age and gender, should have of all of the different nutrients. So for younger adults, B6 needs are a little bit lower. The RDA for those ages 19 to 50, so pretty much right when you turn an adult until 50, is 1.3 milligrams daily. For older adults, it changes once you go over age 50, so at age 51, and the needs vary whether or not you're a man or a woman. So for men, it goes from 1.3 milligrams per day to 1.7 milligrams per day. And for women over age 70, it goes from 1.3 milligrams per day to 1.5 milligrams a day. So again, for older adults over age 50, men need 1.7 milligrams of B6 a day and women need 1.5 milligrams per day. Now, this increase might not sound huge, but it does highlight that vitamin B6 is an important nutrient when it comes to aging. Again, while severe vitamin B6 deficiency isn't super common, research does suggest that older adults may not consistently meet recommended intake levels. And this is one of those nutrients that can become quite inadequate over time, especially if overall food intake decreases. So let's talk about why older adults might be at risk. So there are several possible reasons why an older adult might be at risk for lower vitamin B6 intake. First off would include appetite changes with aging, whether or not it's from medication, medical condition, and even things like just depression and loneliness. We eat a lot when we're together, and if an older adult finds themselves more socially isolated, they just might not have a good appetite to eat a lot of food. And when appetite is poor, this leads to lower overall food intake. Lower overall food intake leads to decrease in lots of nutrients, including B6. Second off, some older adults may eat less variety in their diets. I think I put it in my notes to say later that, one of the best ways to get B6 is just to eat a good variety of foods. But some people just don't have a ton of variety in their diet, whether or not it's preference, availability of foods, ability to purchase those foods, or even we just default on habit. We find ourselves eating the same darn thing every day. We might eat that same thing for multiple meals a day. And less variety in the diet means increased risk for deficiency. And third, there are certain medical conditions or medications that can affect nutrient status or intake. So let's talk about what foods are high in vitamin B6. The good news about this specific nutrient is that vitamin B6 is found in a wide variety of foods. Good food sources of B6 include chickpeas, beef liver, salmon, chicken breast, potatoes, bananas, cottage cheese, rice, spinach, watermelon, and fortified cereals. And this is where the vitamin B6 is added to the cereal where it might not be found naturally. And this isn't an all-inclusive list. These are just some foods that are typically considered high in B6. So one of the things that I like about B6 is that many of these foods are fairly practical and pretty accessible for most people. We can grab a banana as a snack. You can throw some chickpeas in salad or a soup, add a potato for dinner, maybe some fortified cereal with breakfast. And again, the take home is that eating a variety of foods throughout the day can really help to support B6 intake and prevent deficiency. So you might be wondering whether or not older adults need a vitamin B6 supplement. And the answer with every supplement is it depends. Now, most multivitamins, if you're taking a multivitamin, are going to have plenty of B6 for you in there. And the reality is that many older adults can meet their needs of B6 through food intake alone. But for some individuals who have poor appetite, restrictive diets, maybe certain medical conditions, they could potentially benefit from supplementation. And this is where individualized advice really matters. And like with any other supplements, more is not always better. With any nutrient, you also run the risk not just of deficiency, but also toxicity. So very high doses of B6 supplements over time can contribute to health issues, even nerve-related side effects. So supplements should always be discussed with your healthcare provider. So one of the reasons I wanted to cover B6 is that it's often overlooked in conversations about healthy aging, but if nutrient recommendations increase with age, then I think it's worth paying attention to. I also think that it highlights a bigger point that healthy aging and nutrition isn't just about one or two nutrients, it's about all the nutrients that we're able to eat throughout the day. And it's about being able to consistently meet our nutrition guidelines, have a balanced, healthy diet over time. So before we wrap up today's episode, I do want to tell you about a free resource that I have available. If you're interested in learning more about practical nutrition tips for healthy aging, I have a free guide called the Geriatric Dietitian's 10 Essential Nutrition Tips for Healthy Aging. It is a simple, printable guide with 10 practical nutrition strategies that older adults can start using today. If you want to snag this freebie, go to my website, thegeriatricdietitian.com. So in closing, vitamin B6 does a lot of things in the body. It supports metabolism, brain health, immune function, nerve health. Recommended intake does increase with age. It varies a little bit whether or not you're a man or a woman. True deficiency is rare, but some older adults can be at risk for inadequate intake. Good news is vitamin B6 is found in a wide variety of foods, and nutrition recommendations should always be individualized. If you want to learn more, you can check out my website, The Geriatric Dietitian. I have tons of articles and information on that website. And if you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it from someone you might think would benefit from listening to this podcast. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week on the podcast. Want simple nutrition tips to support healthy aging? Download my free guide, 10 Essential Nutrition Tips for Healthy Aging, packed with practical ways to stay strong, nourished, and independent as you age. Grab your free copy in the show notes or visit thegeriatricdietitian.com.